Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel and podcast. It's Monday night. It's 9:30. Mark and I are back asking the same question we ask every Monday night. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on, Mark. For the first time in 3 years, the winds of discontent are blowing through the northeast, I think, mate, and I get a whiff of disappointment as well. What's going on with you, mate?
I think you're right on. Yeah, I mean, it was an odd game at the weekend, wasn't it? And I think there's an awful lot of mixed opinions about the way things are going, and particularly what happened at the weekend. But yeah, we'll get into it. But yeah, there's definitely some murmurings, aren't there?
There's plenty of things to pick at, and boy, we will be picking. I guarantee you that. But if you're just checking us out for the first time, why don't you click that button, subscribe, help get us to our next milestone, which is 9,000 subscribers. Would love you to get us there. Recommend us to family and friends if you haven't already. It's all free content on the Evermore YouTube channel. You can be a member if you want to be. Click the option down below. We've got a mint prize for you, which is the blue retro McEwen shirt, which we'll be giving away in a prize draw when we hit the 9K mark. So help us get there, guys. You can get a brilliant bit of Newcastle United retro gear. And we are live tonight, as always. Jump in the comments as you guys always do. It always helps Monday night's flow, especially when we've got this game to talk about, which we're going to get stuck right into now, Mark. And the key word is frustration. I did my post-match. I think I used that word quite a lot. I was a little bit spaced out in the post-match, which is why we did the other video about asking kind of more pertinent questions about, just about a lot of things. I think really in terms of the sins of the summer and how Newcastle find themselves in this particular situation. But I think before you get into the game, Mark, I think the lack of squad depth and options probably to chase a game like that at the weekend was so self-evident, wasn't it, when Newcastle just could not get anything out of that game at the weekend?
Yeah, I think fundamentally the biggest frustration, I think, is the ability to change and change the direction of the game, or change the options of the way that you're playing. I mean, you look at the substitutions at the weekend again, and it's very much like for like. One midfielder comes off, another one goes on. One winger comes off, one winger goes on. There's not you kind of touched on that, and I kind of hate referring to it as, but there never really appears to be an in-game plan B. There doesn't seem to be that in-game management to go, this isn't working. Or it's a difficult one, because for huge moments of that game at the weekend, it did work. The chances, although not particularly clear cut, there were chances. There was plenty of possession. There's plenty of good things, but the ability to just change things and change what you're doing to combat what the opposition are doing as well. And after 60, 70 minutes, you haven't scored. Nothing's happened in that regard. That part's not worked. Is there a way to then utilize the players that you've got available to you to change up what you're doing and to do something a little bit different and keep the opposition on their toes? And there never seems to be an option to change it up like that. And again, that sort of felt like that at the weekend with the substitutions that were made. Were just changing personnel, not changing approach.
Well, we'll get into that. I've got plenty to say about the substitutions and the manager in a couple of minutes. But in terms of the game itself, Mark, if you say we started really well, we had so much of the ball. You got some of your super duper stat slides. Warning, Sky Sports, you're about to be rinsed by the stat man, as always on a Monday night. I know you guys in the comments love it when Mark takes over the old stat board. But we did play in parts really well. Some of the football was really slick, especially between Bruno and Tonali. Yeah, that's right. Eddie, Bruno and Tonali, those two. Remember those two? Really nice football. Isaac just looked so rusty. You could hear his fucking little twig knees squeaking when he was running. He looked that rusty, to be honest with you. But there was no other option. There is one, but anyhow, just doesn't want to even give him any game time, really, other than 5 minutes. But, Newcastle looked every part like a team that showed up. I mean, weirdly enough, that's probably the best football we've played all season. There was patches against Everton when we looked really good, but Everton are dog shit. But Brighton are a really good team. And parts of that first half in particular, Mark, we looked fucking brilliant. We just lacked the killer instinct of putting the ball in the back of the net, didn't we?
Confidence in front of goal is a huge thing. It seems to have just vanished. And you're right. I mean, there were some really good passages of play. There were some really nice. I mean, that little link up between Bruno and Tonali in the middle of midfield to put Isak through in the first half. The ball through. Well, I'll come to this as one of the sides, but the ball through from Tonali to Isak in the second half. There was lots of that. There was lots of very nice play. That wasn't. It wasn't a bad game from that point of view. You know, we can't come on and say it was an absolutely horrendous performance. They were shit. They were outplayed or outthought by the opposition. I think they were very unlucky because on another day, and we saw exactly what the most of this side can do from last season is score a hatful of goals, and they could have run riot. And I think had one or two gone in, it would have changed. But there is a huge lack of cutting edge at that top end of the field.
Well, Ty is asking for the slides, Mark. So give the man what he wants. I'm going to put your comment away, Ty. Mark is about to take you on a stat ride. Buckle in, mate.
So kind of what I was talking about that cutting edge at the top, and this is kind of a comparison between this season and last season, and sort of the attacking prowess of the side, I guess. Where you go from and all these stats are per 90 minutes, so 1 goal per game this season as opposed to 2.2 from last season, which drops the side from 3rd in the league to 15th. Now this was based before the games yesterday, so we've slight variance in this, but not very much with who played. XG down as well. Shots down, shots on targets down by 1.4 a game. I think the crucial thing for this is shots on target percentage is down by nearly 7%. It's just like I say, that lack of cutting edge at that point. Goals per shot it stayed pretty much the same, but I think the difference is the next digits on this. I kind of have too many digits on here. Goals per shot on target is down slightly, but again, you're dropping from first, second in that top sort of 6 or 7 to almost bottom of the league in terms of the numbers here. And I think for me, this one as well, average shot distance, 15 yards this season. It was 15.8 last season, 19th last season, 18th this season. Nobody's shooting from distance, bar Harvey Barnes. Why? There are positions where they decide get into moments in front of goal where, 20 yards out, have a pop. Like there's none of that. It's sometimes too intricate, too busy trying to get the ball into the box to create an opportunity for Isak. Let him feed off scraps as well. Hit a shot, get it down the goalkeeper's throat, make him spill it, allow Isak to follow in. There doesn't seem to be any of that going on. So that was just some of the key stats. We're sort of normal little stats slide as well. And again, the key thing for me again in this is just that game control index. I mean, for 60, 75 minutes or so, I mean, it's pretty much dominant. You see where the Brighton goals comes in, and then they have a little bit of a spell once that goal comes in. But up until about the 75th minute or so, Newcastle are dominant in terms of where they are on the pitch and possession of the football. And realistically, it's not until towards that second batch of substitutions that Newcastle lose control completely of the game and never really regain any sort of semblance of control. You can see that big spike around the 60th minute, which is when the subs of Willock and Barnes come on and gave a real lift and a real impetus at that point, but it drops away. And then as soon as the other substitutions are made, it completely lose control of the game in that regard as well. And then again, going back to sort of bad decisions, and this is why I named these slides bad decisions, because it was just a game of poor choices at both ends of the field, really. I mean, this was in the second minute of the game. Gordon gets in down the left. He's got the opportunity. Both Tonali and Isak make that front post run, and Gordon hits it over Verbruggen's head. He gets a hand to it and it ends up going over Murphy and out here on the right-hand side. But again, there's a simpler ball there to be played, and Gordon's that just lack of final ball in there was telling. This one was, for me, this is much more criminal. Murphy on the right-hand side, obviously Tino's overlapped. He can't use him. There's a little inside ball here to Tonali, who is in all sorts of space. The ability to then run in on goal at this point and get either put the ball across goal or take it on himself. And even if Murphy doesn't think he can play that pass, there's a ball back here to Joe Linton, who's just coming into the picture. If you zoomed in enough, you could just about see Joe Linton's hand just sticking out. So you can see that it's better from this angle. I mean, for Murphy to not play this pass to Tonali, I mean, it's just again, bad decision.
Criminal.
It shows
criminal.
lack
That's
of,
what that is,
lack
Mark.
of a
The
footballing brain
footballer.
you gave it, and I just hated the fact that it went from this, where there's a really promising opportunity to create a goal scoring opportunity, to that. This is what Murphy did with it. He dillied, he let the Brighton player get in front of him, and then he put a ball over to the back. It ended up in a corner, but that should have been an attempt on goal. And it was just poor from that point on. This was the goal. And again, bad decisions in terms of defending. The free kick was taken quickly, but not that quickly. There was enough time to have been set. And the two fullbacks, I think, are quite well set at this point. I think Cher is too deep. He's allowed Danny Welbeck, Danny Welbeck far too much sort of time to just be able to bring the ball down at this point. But the key thing for me is the positioning of Dan Burn. I'll come on to this in 1 second. This was how the play then developed. Livramento, I think, played it quite well. He got himself into the position to make the challenge. And then it was such a soft challenge. It was such a soft attempt to keep Welbeck off the ball, and allowed him to get the shot away. He has to be much more strong in that area. But this is it. I mean, you've watched Dan Burns' position here. He's high up. There's a player in front of him. You can see Lewis Dunk with a ball about, getting ready to play it. He can see what's developed in front of him, but he's not on his way to play the ball yet. The guy that Burn is covering has got his back to the ball with his head in his hands, pretty much. He's not aware of what's going on. Dan Burn should be dropping back at this point quickly to get into that gap. If Dan Burn drops back, this goal does not happen, because that ball cannot then get played between Welbeck and Ruder. And the fact that there isn't the other centre-back in that hole in the back allows that play to progress. And it's, again, another bad decision. Lesson for anybody who's learning how to head a football: don't do it like this. Again, I mean, I guess it shows the fact that Anthony Gordon isn't a centre forward. He hasn't got that instinct as a centre forward. Head down. You've got to use the front of your head. You've got to be aware of where the ball is. He just doesn't have it, and it's headed over. It's such a good opportunity.
That's why he's not a centre forward, Mark. That's why he's not a centre forward. All this bollocks about him being third choice centre forward is horse shit by the manager to try and deflect the fact that he didn't sign a third striker. I'm sorry, I'm not having it.
And this one, I mean, you will never be able to explain to me how on earth Alexander Isak does not get in a shot at goal in this opportunity. The ball's played over by Tonali. He gets himself into this position, and he fluffs his lines. It's given offside, but if you obviously the replay shows he was onside. How he's not getting a shot away here is unbelievable, and it kind of goes back to we called last week toothless, didn't we? I mean, this was the kind of toothless attack that Newcastle have at the moment. And it's no surprise that it's 404 minutes, I think, since Newcastle have scored an open play goal. 6.7 games, I think it is. It's 6.7 hours, sorry. Not 6.7 games, 6.7 hours since Newcastle scored an open play goal. And that was Harvey Barnes in the 46th minute against Fulham.
Yeah, who's the second best finisher at the club, who's sitting on the fucking bench. We've got some comments coming in here, so we'll just go through some of these. Brilliant analysis, Mark, as always. Chip is saying Eddie's too predictable as a manager. Everyone has sussed him. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Everybody keeps playing a low block now against Newcastle. And Ian's bang on the money here. We need a number 10 against those teams with a low block. This, again, goes to the imbalance of the squad. Like I said in the post-match a bit, and in the other video, we'll talk about the sins of the summer, Mark. We don't have anyone different on the bench to unlock games like that. If you had somebody like a a Maddison-style player, a Grealish-style player, or dare I say it, a fucking Maxi, to come off the bench in a game like that. He's not going to follow Eddie Howe's stringent rule book of you be here, you be there, you do that. He's going to get the ball, drop a shoulder, do 4 lads and rattle one in the top corner and get you a point, or maybe get you a winner. And we don't have those players anymore. And every time we're linked to a player, it's a fucking Bournemouth player or something like that. And it pisses me right off. Where's the talent? Where's the Mavericks? Where's the spark? You can't all just have a team full of canny lads, like Jacob Murphy, who do quirky things on the club's social media. As Darren says, there's so many players need to be moved on. There's too many average players in that squad who offer fuck all off the bench, absolutely fuck all. And came on at the weekend. We're going to talk about the subs in a minute. It's really pissed me off when, we'll get into some of the main subs. Your stats prove how much the game dropped off when these players came on. But we don't have anyone bar Harvey Barnes on that bench to do anything in that game, because Callum Wilson is perpetually knackered. He's probably injured watching this if he's watched it. Callum, he's pulled a muscle in his fucking neck or something. He smiled at somebody because he's so handsome and charming. He's pulled a cheek ligament and he's out for another 9 months or some shit like that. But we don't have the players in the squad to come and do anything in games like that, Mark. And people are going to keep doing this. Low block, frustrating, keep Newcastle quiet, go grab a goal because they've got fuck all else to come back with. And it's really worrying.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to what I said before about that ability to be able to change things and change the approach. And if you have a player that played in that almost number 10 role before. I mean, as one of the comments there says that Miggy sort of was that at one point. Now, I'm not saying that he's the answer in that position. I don't think that at all. Joe Willock would be almost perfect in playing in that. He maybe is not the creative spark in there, but certainly is somebody getting into the box. Thanks, Ian.
He would have done. He would have done, Ian. He's a right little bastard. He would have definitely got to go.
but certainly is somebody that's getting in the box to sort of help. And you saw early on that Tonali was trying to sort of get into that area, but it's not consistent enough. And it was more as a one-off now and again. Joe Linton's tried at times, but you need a player to play in that hole in front of the opposition back four and it trying to get in behind the midfield to utilize that space to play those little balls through to his hand, get the defense on the turn and not have everything in front of them. And there were times when Newcastle did really, really well and got in behind, particularly Anthony Gordon for an awful lot of the time in that first half. He was brilliant at that point, getting in behind the full back or the centre back on that left hand side. But the final ball was off. But I do think there's just a lack of something in the middle of the park, in that gap in between the midfield and attack, where you can get the ball and play in. And one of the midfielders realistically has to be able to move into that position when things like this happen, when there is a lack of cutting edge and being able to do that. They've got to try something. They've really got to try something different at times. And I'm not saying throw out the whole rule, the whole playbook from Eddie Howe, because an awful lot of it works. In terms of dominant possession, it works. But I think there has to be a change. There has to be an option to be able to look at the game and go, that's not quite working. We're not getting what we need out of them. Let's just change the way that we approach this and try and do something a little bit different. And somebody like putting Barnes in that 10 role,
yeah,
or putting or moving Bruno up the field a little bit.
He's not brave enough to do that, though. He's not brave enough to do that. He's not innovative enough to do that either anymore. He really isn't. He gone are the days of moving players to defensive midfielders when your shit centre half gets sent off. Gone are those days, Eddie Howe. He seems to have lost any kind of bravery or bottle to change these players. Just wanted to pull up Ian's comment there about Willock having the energy of a Henry Hoover, 5 minutes and it's knackered. We've got a video coming up, Ian, on Joe Willock and the regression of Joe Willock. So that should be out hopefully in the next day or two, mate. So keep an eye on that because that's a real concern of mine. It really, really is. As Ian says there, Willock is pissed him right off. There is some mitigating circumstances for Joe Willock's regression, but I actually think there's a lot more to it than just injury. So yeah, check that video out, guys, when it comes out. But yeah, in closing, Mark, you're right. The lack of willingness from the touchline to change things up. There's no point in just replacing, one player for another player and playing exactly the same way. And it's a good caveat taking us into the sub standards. And just before you kind of give us your opinion on it, I'm going to say this to anybody in the chat, and I'm going to say this to anybody who loves Eddie Howe. Now, I like Eddie Howe. He's done a great job, and he deserves a lot of the respect and credit that he has for doing what he's done in a short time in Newcastle. But I don't give a fuck if you're his dad, right? If you're 1-0 down in a game, you're chasing a game, and you take off a Brazilian international and an Italian international, who are two excellent players, for fucking Sean Longstaff and Miggy Almiron, then what the fuck are you doing, Eddie Howe? There's no defense of that whatsoever for me, Mark. That was abysmal. It killed the game. I spoke to people who were in the ground. The whole atmosphere fell off a cliff when he made those subs. It just killed any momentum in the game whatsoever, any creativity in the game. And at the end of the game, when Sean Longstaff's taking your free kick and he can't even clear the first man, you're fucked. That was awful, mate.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element that says, look, you make those substitutions in the 85th minute, there's not an awful lot of time to go. But because of the break, because of the fact that Welbeck had been down injured for so long, there was always going to be...
and Gordon Chippers,
there was always going to be a huge amount of time added on to that game. And I get that there's also an argument. Obviously, Tonali's played... in the Italian games, maybe there's an element of tiredness in his play.
But tight to me, Mark. He didn't look tight to me.
He was getting around the pitch really, really well. Yeah. I didn't see that. That one I can understand more. I think bringing Barnes on and bringing Willock on for Tonali at that point makes some sense, because it gave him, and certainly the impact was there.
You said that to me when we were watching the game. You messaged me and said he's actually off the pitch. He was fucked.
And he has a couple of opportunities in the second half, but he just doesn't look match sharp at all. And that instinct in front of goal doesn't seem to be there at all. But the subs on the 85th minute to bring Gordon off, who'd been one of the more attacking threats, and even that ball that. Can we just talk about Lewis Hall for a second as well? Because
he was brilliant.
Some of the passes Lewis Hall.
Some of them passes was incredible. That one he put through to Isaac, wasn't it, from about 30 yards back or something like that? He just pinged it right through the middle of the park. It was excellent.
The two I really picked out was the one down the left-hand side, and it's almost like sand wedge-esque. The amount of
chip,
brilliant direction, and then the way that ball then bounces exactly as he kind of wants it. The ball through to Isaac was magnificent. The ball early on down the left-hand side to Anthony Gordon to run onto as well was brilliant. And I thought he had a really, really good game. I said to you at one point, I said, apart from the mistake where he tries to head the ball in the box, actually, I went back and watched that again. He slips. It's a slip, not a...
He was my man of the match as well, Ian. He was my man of the match in the post-match. I thought he was fucking brilliant. And compared to Tino as well, Tino is regressing. I said this to you before we come on. Tino Livramento's touch is absolutely shit. Like, I think he gets away with it because he's so quick. His first touch is like a fucking pub team centre forward. It's absolutely awful. Every time he puts his foot on the ball, it rolls about 3 yards, but because the fucker's so quick, he recovers and he gets back, and it doesn't look as bad as it is. At the weekend, was it Matoma got in with his touch? And I think it hits fucking Pope in the head and goes over the bar. It was such a bad touch. And what annoys me, and some of the guys have said this already in the comments about Bruno as captain, if I'd been Trippier would have bollocked him. He would have screamed at him. Where was Bruno? Yeah. He doesn't do any of that as the captain. He tries to don that superhero cape, as Craig Hope says about him, but he doesn't yell at players and dig players out for making stupid mistakes. Like the penalty against Everton, he should have told Gordon, no, Cher's taking that. You'll get your chance next time. But he doesn't do that. He shrinks back. He doesn't step up as a captain, Bruno. And I don't know why this whole captain thing came about. If this was part of the reason to keep him, and you've done it to keep him, then I kind of understand that. But you've taken the captain's armband off Trippier, who's this big character, who's not scared to tell a £65 million centre forward, get your shit together, or a £100 million Brazilian international, supposedly, get your shit together. And you take the armband off him and give it to Bruno, who doesn't do that. I don't get it. Cher's not got the armband. Burns not got the armband. Other players with big characters who would dig players out for fucking around and not getting into position. And I'm really questioning the decision to give Bruno the armband. I think it's weighing him down. I think it's taking him off his game. I don't think it's... Some players grow. You think about David Beckham when he got the England captain's armband. Amazing. How many people said, "Oh, fucking hell, why is he the captain?" And he was incredible. He was a brilliant England captain. He grew in every game. That Greece game stands out. He strayed away, but loads of other games as well. Beckham, wore that armband and drag everyone else along with him. Bruno's not doing that as a captain. He's not doing that at all. And I think it was a huge mistake. I know Trippier's injured, so he ain't going to get the armband back anytime soon, but that's another mistake for me as well. And I don't know who's made that decision. The only thing I can think of, Mark, is that Trippier was on his bike. They thought he was leaving, so they give it a Bruno.
Yeah, I think from what I kind of understand is that there was a lot of thought that Trippier wouldn't be there.
I didn't think he would
the summer, and I think that he was very much wanting to move on, but obviously through one thing or another that wasn't able to happen. And I think that was then the captaincy was moved from him, but. And at the time, I kind of understood it. That you want that leader by example. At times, it's not always around the Roy Keane. Let's absolutely go for anybody that makes a mistake. But sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need somebody to just rattle your own team and just get hold of them and get them in line. But yeah, I think sometimes in games like that, when you need a really strong leader, is Bruno that at the moment? And it might grow into it.
I think he is.
But I don't think he's quite that now at all. I think there are lapses there. But I mean, we'll shift back to the substitution thing. I mean, like I said, Isak, I think probably should have come off earlier on. He just doesn't look sharp. The fact that, again, Will Asula only comes on after the 92nd minute. I mean, again, you're chasing a game. You bring on another central midfielder. You bring on a wide player that I mean, let's face it, doesn't score goals and doesn't create goals. What has Asula got to do to get an opportunity 1-0 down with 10, 15 minutes to go? Throw him on. Let's play to him. Let's play to his strengths. You know what they are. He's good. He's strong. He's good. He's not bad in the air. He's got a good turn of pace. We've seen it for the Danish under 21s in that regard. And I know it's a different level, but he's got something about him in that, and just utilize him. But again, he gets a couple of minutes at the end when the momentum of the game is completely gone, and those late substitutions have really pulled the game away from Newcastle at that point. It frustrates me that when there's no other option there other than Asula, you utilize him. You have to utilize the forward player at that point. But I can't get my head around that one.
We said this last season. We said this last season about him as well when we were managing the squad with the Champions League. I said this in my video as well. How come Aston Villa aren't struggling with the Champions League and the Premier League? Because they're managing the squad. They're rotating players. It's Watkins. It's John Duran. They're moving players around. Yes, they're quite blessed to have two very good players, but we had two very good centre forwards as well, and he didn't rotate them. He didn't rotate the midfield. He didn't rotate the wing backs. In the Premier League, we were playing Burn and Trippier, Champions League, Premier League, Cup games, and he wouldn't rotate, and he'd burn players out. He simply burned players out. And now they've brought in James Bunce, who's supposedly the performance director. I'm not sure what he's directing, because nobody's performance seems to be getting any better. I know he's only been here a short period of time, but the players look even more fucked now than they ever have done before. So I don't know what's gone on with that. And I saw a comment there, I pulled it up on the screen from Peter about Isak. Isak's playing in a slightly withdrawn role for Sweden, and he's banging in loads of goals. Do you know what I mean? And is that something Eddie Howe needs to look at? Is Alexander Isak an out-and-out number 9? And it goes back to your point, Mark. If Alexander Isak is an out-and-out number 9 and he's having a stinker, you've got a young lad on the bench who is a number 9. Give the kid 20 minutes. I mean, whether you think he's shite or not, and for what it's worth, I think we should have signed better. I'm not convinced by him either. I think Ian said it in the comments as well. But if you don't give the kid a sniff, how are we going to know whether he's going to do it? You're never going to know. And that's the thing that really pisses me off about Howe. The arrogance of him, we'll get into Eddie in a minute, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but the arrogance of him to think that he's got this infinite level of time to bleed these players into the squad is breathtakingly arrogant at times, especially when you haven't got a player in that position because you've insisted on, this handsome bastard that you had with you at Bournemouth who is made of glass staying at the club, and he's never fit to play. And Isak's got loads of injury problems. So the club have gone out and signed this young centre forward, and you're going, oh no, he's not ready. He's not ready for Premier League. I'll tell you when he's ready. You're like, well, so we're going to put a left winger in at centre forward who can't head the fucking ball, as you've just aptly shown. And you're just going to leave this kid to do what? Kick his heels up on the bench? To me, that's arrogant by Eddie Howe and really, really foolish of him, because if you win those games, nobody says anything. No. If you don't win those games, then everybody says everything and says, why aren't you playing that guy?
And we go back to the earlier games in the season as well, because there's less question marks around the fact that Newcastle had those moments that won them games, and they relied on moments. I think Craig Hope mentioned that, didn't he? That Newcastle relied on specific moments in those games rather than particular passages of play. It was a moment that won the game. But the real frustration is the fact that he's not willing to use these players for more. And we gave him an awful lot of credit when he did the same thing with Bruno, when Bruno first came to the club. But in that time, there were options. There were other options for him to sort of come in, and it was a different style at that point as well. So Bruno was allowed to come in. And if you remember, Bruno played a lot further forward than he does now.
That's where he got goals. He got about 5 goals in his first 7 games or something, didn't he?
And I still maintain, when I go back to what I was saying before about somebody playing in that gap in between the midfield and attack, maybe Bruno was better suited to be in that forward, forward number 8, 10 hybrid almost to get him in and around the box to play those balls, because we've seen them play those passes. The ball through for Isak in the first half was a prime example of his ability on the ball when he's in those areas. So there has to be something that Newcastle can do to utilize those players better. But I come back to those subs, and I just think the first 2, yes, I get there was an impetus. There was a bit more life. Barnes looked lively when he came on, but again, decision making with the final ball was a little.
Should have been on a half time for Murphy. Should have been on a half time.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. That second bout of substitutions wrecked it. I mean, there was 15 minutes to go at that point, because there was always going to be a huge amount of injury time. And to take off Gordon and Bruno, then to bring on 2 players that don't create at all was a mistake. And then to only bring on a Sula with a few minutes to go, just again, come that phrase in game management, and it's another example of where the managers, I think, has got it wrong.
Well, just a comment there before we get into the manager. Tyson, people need to face up to the facts. Eddie Howe is not an elite manager. Eddie Howe is not the manager to progress the club to higher levels. We're going to get stuck right into that in a minute. Ty, just a one on Harvey Barnes. Dazzler's asking, is Barnes a one-trick pony? If I can just take that one, Mark. The issue that I've got, and again, this goes into the manager here. So we talked about this on other videos as well. It's bizarre that the club went and signed another left winger when we already had a left winger, and not to mention how well Joe Willock and Joe Linton had done on the left-hand side previously to that. The left-hand side was the strongest part of our team. It was a bit like our Family Guy sketch when Quagmire's been wanking for 4 days and he's got a massive big one arm and then one skinny arm. That was our left arm. It was built like a brick shit house. The right-hand side was like a noodle, and the club went and signed another left winger, which made no sense to me whatsoever. But it's up to Eddie Howe to get Gordon and Barnes in the same team, and to get Gordon and Barnes working in the same team, because Harvey Barnes is the second best finisher at the football club, and he needs to be in the starting lineup. He cannot be on the bench. If I was Harvey Barnes, I'd be kicking his fucking door off the hinges. He'd probably break his toe, mind you, and be out for 9 months. But I'd kick his door off the fucking hinges, and I'd say, how the fuck is he starting ahead of me and Jacob Murphy? I'd be going mental if I was Harvey Barnes about that. So you either figure out another way to get him into the team, like you say, Mark, play him in the 10, or play him, try and make him an 8 or something like that. I don't know. I mean, he can't really tackle Harvey Barnes, so probably couldn't make him an 8, but make him a 10 off the centre forward, and have him in that free role, But to not be able to get those two players into the team, for me, is a failing of the manager.
Yeah, it was baffling when you consider how much money was spent on those two. Was it 70 odd million on the two of them that play in the same position effectively, with no real change on the opposite side? I get the injury issues with Willock. I mean, he'd had a really bright season in the Champions League qualifying season, where I think he got, was it 3 goals and 6 assists, and playing in that sort of role that him and Joe Linton worked really, really well in tandem on that left-hand side. And again, that's another area in this 4-3-3 that's being used. And it's difficult to kind of argue because of the number of goals that were scored last season from similar sort of positions, but it worked so well, and you've taken that side away, and there really is an imbalance there in terms of quality from the left-hand side forward. And it's almost the flip of the defence was last season, where the quality was on the right-hand side of the defence getting forward and the overlap from Trippier. But there isn't anything from that right-hand side. There's really no threat at all. And it all has to come down the left-hand side. And again, this kind of leads into Newcastle being quite predictable and easy to defend at times. They did really well, like I said earlier, they did really well early doors to get in behind, and I think that they should have, more of that could have been done. But there's a difficulty in not being able to lay the blame at the manager's door for bad decisions in game. And I'm conscious of not going too overboard on Eddie for that, because he can't control what the players do in that regard, but he can control who's on the field. And I think there are better options than playing Jacob Murphy on the right-hand side of that front three. Murphy, great, coming on with 10 or 15 minutes to go, fresh legs. He's quick as out. He'll help get back. He'll defend a little bit like Miggy will help in that regard. But you've got to put your best players on the field. And against this side that is attackable.
I think I said to you, Longstaff and Murphy, the players you bring on when you try and defend a 1-0 lead, not chase a 1-0 lead, chase a 1-0 in the game, which I think is bad management. It's a great question from Andy. Will the press ask Eddie some of these questions? I doubt it. I totally agree with you, Andy. There only seems to be 1 or 2 journalists actually got the balls to ask him any of these questions. But moving on to the next one, I hope my camera's right there, Mark. I seem to be a bit stuttery there. I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe my Wi-Fi is a little bit on the blink, possibly. But as long as you can hear me okay. So the next question is how long left? Little play on words there. Now, I'm going to take this on to start with, Mark, because I'm probably running out of patience more with a manager than you are. You're willing to give me a bit more time. I am really, really struggling to believe that this is the guy that will get this team top 6 this season. From everything that I'm seeing, this isn't just about Brighton. This is about last season as well. Bad decisions, over loyalty to players that have no business being in the starting 11. The arrogance of thinking he can have an infinite level of time with new players to bed them into the team and hold them back. Yes, you could say Lewis Hall looks much better now, so arguably you're proving his point. But how many games did we throw away with Burn at left back, not being able to catch anybody and making massive mistakes? And do you know what? Somebody put a comment on one of our X posts of the day. It scared the life out of me because I actually thought it could happen. That they said they wouldn't put it past Eddie to drop Hall and put Burn back at left back when Botman comes back. And do you know what it is? At the minute, I can see him doing it. I don't know what is going on with him. I don't know whether he's just run out of ideas. The stark comparisons of what the Bournemouth fans told all of us about Eddie Howe is exactly what's happening here right now, 3 years down the line. Over loyalty to players that shouldn't be in the starting lineup at all. And that was his downfall at Bournemouth. And that could be his downfall here. I'm almost certain that's going to be his downfall here. And what annoys me is if there's any doubt in the boardroom level about the manager, any doubt whatsoever, and I don't mean Amanda and Murdoch because they've gone, if the PIF have any doubt, if Darren Neal's had any doubt, they should have binned them in the summer when they could have got someone like Thomas Tuchel, or Jose. And before everyone starts going mad about Jose in the comments, Jose is almost perfect for the next phase of this Newcastle project. You'd only be here for 3 years, because that's what Jose does. He'd win you a trophy and he'd get you in the top 4, and then he'd fuck off. And that's what Jose Mourinho does, right? So I'm annoyed if they haven't binned him in the summer, if they didn't think he was the man for the job. But if he was the man for the job, why didn't you back him in the summer transfer window with good enough players and not the shite that you give him to work with? And I'm really having my doubts, Mark, that this manager is going to finish top 6, and therefore, by default, I think he's out on his arse by the end of the season. And if things don't get better by Christmas and we're well adrift, I think he might be gone by December.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will get the season. I think the lack of activity in the window is helps him to an extent, but it doesn't help him the fact that he's got to take an awful lot of responsibility in that. If indeed that Mark Gay was the only option at that point, why are you not looking at why you're not looking at other options as well? And that maybe it's not better options, but if plan A isn't there, you've got to be looking at plan B and C, because you can't just go in one player. And if you're looking to spend 70, 80 million on a player, I'm sorry, but you could have quite easily improved the squad with that for the players that were around. But I think January will come. I think so long as the wheels don't fall off in between now and then, I think, you look at getting 1 or 2 maybe in January to try and help things and try and improve things for the rest of the season. And he gets the season. And if Newcastle don't finish in Europe, I think that will be it. And I think that he will have had his moment. He will have done an exceptional job in saving the club from relegation and getting him into the Champions League. But there has to be a kick on, and that's the move. That's the City style move. Exactly right, Graham. That you move on and you have to get to the next level. And we've said for a good season and a half nearly that and I think we said it at the very beginning, Eddie Howe might just be the manager that was right for that initial part. Let's get the team safe, get them upper level into that next tier, and then you move on to the higher tier manager and move on from there. But he could still do it. But there has to be some changes to the way things that have gone on, because it's not clicking at the moment. It's really not. And despite the improved performances for the last 3 games, there's an awful lot of the attacking play that seems to have regressed this season as well. Look at those stats from before, where the numbers are down massively. And I don't for one second believe that last season was a flash in the pan for those players in terms of what they can produce. I genuinely think the likes of Gordon and Isak can easily produce that season in, season out. So that there's got to be something that the manager can do to help turn that around and give himself the rest of the season to keep that European charge on.
I mean, I think he grossly overestimates some of these players based on their kind of that personality or that character. I'm looking on the bench, and I said this in post-match, and I appreciate you just come back from injury, but you're 1-0 down, as I say. You're looking to create something. You've got a young lad on the bench in the shape of Louis Miley, who showed you last season he's got a pass. What did the kid get? 3 or 4 assists? He's able to do it, and he turns around and he brings on Sean. You know what Sean can do? Bring this lad on and just give him a chance, because that's the kind of player you need to come off the bench. Miley might have just found a pass for Isak, that killer pass that Isak might have put away, and we could have got the point. And then Eddie Howe looks like a master, a tactical master genius by bringing on Louis Miley off the bench. But he doesn't. He brings on Sean, who does fuck all, and he puts more pressure on Sean. I watched his podcast with Shearer and Lindegan. It was brilliant, and he's such a lovely lad. And he said, and you can feel he feels that pressure from the crowd when we're moaning and groaning at him. But the manager's not doing him any favours, because that wasn't a game for Sean Longstaff. That particular moment was not a game for Sean Longstaff, and that's bad management by the manager. And I agree with what Andrew said earlier. The press have got to fucking ask him that question. Why are you bringing on players like Sean Longstaff when you're chasing the game 1-0? When you've got creative players like Louis Miley there who can find a pass in the attacking third? Why didn't you give Louis Miley a game? asking that question. Just a quick pause on that, Mark. Brilliant. Giorgio never fails to make me laugh. He said, "Can I just introduce you to the bin?" Ian, you probably didn't realise because you were on one of your rambles, but there was a lad in the comments there, and he decided, because he was upset I was having to go to Eddie Howe, and he decided to use a really unnecessary, abusive tone, making fun of people with mental disabilities, which one of my family members also has. So fuck you, Ian. Get in the bin, you wank. If you're a prick, you'll get the flick on this channel, and George is kindly reminding you of that, you knobhead. So yeah, go back to the manager, Mark. For me, if you've got I think you've got the fixtures there, haven't you? The next few fixtures, you just bring them up. I'm going to be away actually for a while, so after the next week or so you won't see me. Mark will be doing the post matches, so there'll be less swearing and more stats. But I'm looking through these, Mark. I'll get your take on this, and guys in the comments, let us know what you think. I'm going to go defeat in the cup to Chelsea. We're out in the cup there. Defeat against Chelsea at home. Arsenal defeating us as well. I think we'll get a point against Forest, but the way they're playing, Elliot Anderson and Chris Wood, two former Magpies, we might get beat there and all. And then I think I can only see points against West Ham because we've got such a good record against them at St James's Park, and they didn't look good at the weekend. They got battered at the weekend, and they look really fragile defensively, but that's not good there. I think we're lucky if we get 4 points there, maximum, in my opinion. And the pressure is massively on Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in the way Chelsea have played this season, they've looked much more a side that belongs at the top. I think the disjointed performances and the total reliance on Cole Palmer from last season to get them through anything is sort of gone, and even Nicholas Jackson, for God's sake, looks like a decent striker at this point.
God.
Arsenal, I mean, will come in. They're not. It's not going to be easy. And I just think that they will dominate possession. They'll dominate chances, and they've got the players to be able to win the game quite easily. And with a side that's not taking their chances at the moment, Newcastle are going to really, really struggle in that, because they're not going to have 21 shots on target that they had, or 21 shots this weekend. It was only 6 on target, but they're not going to have that number against Arsenal. So they have to make their opportunity count. And if they don't, then Arsenal will win. The same really for Chelsea. They've got mistakes at the back, so there's the ability to hurt them, particularly from, you play in behind their centre, in those gaps between the centre backs and the full backs. Again, Liverpool did that quite well and got in behind. Thank you, Ian.
How much you pay him for that? Did you donate his channel?
$5 on its way. So there's the ability to get at them, but I think their level of performance is much higher. And for the two games, it's difficult to kind of see a win in either. The cup game, maybe they'll make a few more changes, and Newcastle will go with a slightly stronger lineup and be able to get that one over the line. I think that's possibly the hope. And then Forest, they look fairly decent at times tonight. Elliot Anderson, I thought, was excellent, and again shows an attacking threat for a player. He wonderful little run early on where he ends up going for a corner, jinks in between three or four sort of players and puts it. It gets put wide, and then I think the cross for the ball in as well for Chris Wood opportunity. Not long afterwards, he really looked quite good. Again, Chris Wood dangerous. He scores again tonight.
Who'd have thunk it?
Much maligned striker that doesn't score goals, but has scored double figures in 5 seasons. So there's that argument, and that's not going to be easy. West Ham, look, a mess at times, don't they? And Lopetegui come in with a bigger name to come in and take them on from where they were, and they've gone backwards, and they look awful at times. So I can see that one being a win, but really difficult from particularly the other 3 league games to get 3 points out of those. I think you're looking at a draw from those 3, and is 4 points from those 4 games good enough? Maybe. I think
might just keep
that's
him
about
keep him in the
average.
job till the January window. He might just stay in the job until the January window. But the January window will be a big telltale sign, because if they don't back him in the January window, I think with at least 2 or 3 players will be in big trouble. In terms of that European push. If he doesn't get European football this season, I think he's gone. I think you said that as well, Mark, in previous episodes, haven't you? You think he's gone as well? Who doesn't get
I think that's always the indication from what they said. It's sort of Europe or bust. If Newcastle don't get Europe again this season, and I think financially they really have to be able to sort of satisfy PSR and be able to bring in more money for next season's. So if they really need that extra boost from TV, from the games, and particularly with them having more European games, so even that group stage now being more games, there's more opportunity to bring that revenue in for more gate receipts, all that kind of stuff. So they really do need it from that point of view, and I do think it's probably
we're not looking at European team. I must admit, Trevor's not wrong there.
And again, it seems like almost to sit on the fence, but there's an awful lot of the games.
Like you?
Oh no, shock horror. Hold the back page. But there's an awful lot of that game that he would go, yeah, all right. If Newcastle had scored 3 goals in the first half of the week on Saturday, I don't think
it's all lifts and buts, though, isn't it? It's all lifts and buts. You can't live like that.
But I do think there's too many of these games go by where it stops being a one-off. It stops being, things will ultimately get better and the performances will come. Well, the performance is sort of there, but the other stuff hasn't come. And the fact that I'll go back to that stat again, 404 minutes without an open play goal is horrible. The only 2 goals since then have been a Fabian Schär penalty against Wimbledon and an Anthony Gordon penalty against Manchester City. It's grim from that point.
So I've just seen a great question there from Baz down under. Who will replace Eddie at Christmas? And Ty has duly said Santa, which is brilliant. That is a really good question, though. Let's just say hypothetical. Say Eddie's gone by Christmas. I mean, like I said, you're talking about managers that are available now. You can't have Tuchel anymore because he's gone. If they did want Jose, it wouldn't be beyond a Jose move to throw a wobbler at Fenerbahce and walk out the door, really, and then end up as the Newcastle manager a week later. It'd be vintage Jose, wouldn't it? But realistically, our managers that are out working available now, who the fuck would Newcastle even go after? That's the question.
The turkey teeth.
Listen, do you know what? I've slagged him off, right? But if Eddie was to go by Christmas and Jurgen Klopp rocked up at St James's Park, I would have, my teeth whitened and a cap on with my glasses, loving every minute of that wanker being the Newcastle manager. That's a good shout by Ian Terzic. He did a number on Eddie in the Champions League.
He was the one I was going to say. I would imagine that not many of you follow the account that's called NUFC Flights. I'm not a big one for the flight radar guys, but somebody said that he was apparently in London. It's not a big stretch to imagine that somebody goes there for a couple of days for. No,
it's really not. Given how a lot of stuff goes on in London, to be fair. So.
No, but he's probably a decent shout. Do you know what I mean? Like say, ex-Dortmund manager, he's managed at a higher standard of club and of players. So potentially he's the one to go from Eddie Howe to the next one. So he's the next step, and then build from that. Maybe Dazzler puts in there. He's not that experienced. I think it's more the level of club that he's managed, and perhaps the players that he's then managed at that regard. And he is highly rated. So maybe he is the next step up.
What about if you go on box office, did the PIF go to Nagelsmann's agent, throw a bag of money at him and try and get him out the German job? Because you got to look at that now. You think if you were going to get Poch because he's got the time and Mitchell, you have to pay him out of his contract for USA. If you want a Nagelsmann, you have to pay him out of his contract for Germany. If you wanted Jose, you'd have to pay him out of his contract with Fenerbahce. and I don't know who else. Is Zidane still at work? I don't know whether they'd go for Zidane. Is Zidane an elite manager? He managed Real Madrid, won trophies. Luis Enrique, would they go for managers like that? I don't know. Just would they get the same throughput, the same output?
I don't think, and I think Zidane said this before. He doesn't want a project. He doesn't want to come into, but he wants a job.
He wants a ready-made
like Madrid,
team,
like Juve,
what a twat.
Bayern.
What's a twat?
As good as Pep isn't a project guy. Pep comes into a side
That's
that
a good
just
show
needs
by Vincent. That's a good show.
Yeah,
He's a very good manager. Yeah.
And who was it put in the comment before about Mitchell bringing in the Monaco manager? That's
Yes.
Andy Hutter, who was I think he was managed in Germany, didn't he? Where Frankfurt and Mönchengladbach.
Hang on, Trevor. I never said Moyes, but I did say Rodgers because I actually think Brendan Rodgers is a better manager than people give him credit for. I think Brendan Rodgers wouldn't be a bad shout, to be honest with you.
Why would you not want David Moyes?
Because he looks like Mo from The Simpsons. That's the main reason. But, yeah, I still think if you look at what Rodgers did at Leicester, so let's just break that down. So Liverpool, he nearly won the league. He was a Gerrard slip away from winning the league. When he went to Leicester, Leicester tailed off a cliff after Ranieri won them the league, and he built them back up to make them a real serious kind of top 4 contending squad. So I don't think he's as bad of a manager, Rodgers, as people try and say that he is. I know he's a bit of a David Brent-esque character, but I couldn't give a shit if he's getting the performances on the pitch.
Yeah, I think his time in the Premier League is come and gone. I think
he's probably done. I think he's not going to go anywhere else. Yeah.
No,
and I suppose Rodgers, right? Neither one of them are elite managers.
That's it.
Roger, you're right. Yeah. If you want to go next level, then you don't. Yeah.
Is Rodgers streets ahead of Eddie Howe? And I'm not sure
he thinks he is. He thinks he is.
Well, yeah, you have that arrogant opinion of yourself. That's fine. You're allowed to. Yeah. I'm not sure he's so much better in that regard. The comment in earlier on about, I think it's from John, about Atletico Madrid. Simeone. Is that an option? He likes a battle. I mean, that's for sure. He certainly instills some toughness into that squad.
That's the manager, the Monaco manager Sean's talking about. Yeah. So Adi Hutter, is it? Hutter?
Yeah. So I mean, Simeone would really change things around the club. But that mentality of, I mean, we've seen the way that Athletic teams play. That they're brutal at times.
Graham, I see that coming. I'll get that in a second. But I think Trevor's right. There is just something about Jose in Newcastle that just don't seem to go away. And I think if he had the opportunity, I think if the club had spoke to him, I think he would run away from Fenerbahce in a heartbeat to take that job. And Mark Hughes is available, Graham. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, to be honest with you. But yeah, Dean might be right. If Howe was to go, Poch might be the man to replace him. Maybe that's why he's taking the USA job, because it might be easy for him to separate his ties and run back the Premier League. And Poch Poch reminded everybody with Chelsea last season, he's still a good manager. He was in amongst all of that noise, all that distraction, and he was still able to get that done. I see that, Trevor. Well, but to be fair, he's going through a bad time, Steve Bruce and the family.
Yeah.
Big love to them on that one. We have fun with the Steve Bruce impression, but horrible stuff for the Bruce family, and I wish them nothing but strength going through what they're going through, because it's just fucking awful. But going back to this point, Mark, I mean, do you think Jose is cooked in the Premier League? Really? Yeah. As I said before, though, for this Newcastle project, a trophy and establish yourself as a top 4 team, has Jose got that in him?
Possibly, but it depends on what the owners want. If it would be a really short-term project from, he's not going to stay more than 2 seasons at all. God no.
No.
I think Jose's time has come and gone. And there's an I mean, as great as he has been, that we've accused a number of managers in the past of not moving on, or moving with the times a little bit and developing as they progress. I just think Jose has always been of that same sort of mentality of management and the way that he sort of sets teams up, and it's never really moved on from there. And I don't think he's got the ability to manage in the Premier League anymore. Certainly not at that sort of level. And he'll want to come in. He'll want money to spend. And yeah, I mean, he's just charming as fuck, isn't he? And God love him, but I just think his time at that level is gone.
He's in Turkey for a reason, as Baz says. Yeah, you're not wrong, Baz. To be fair, mind you, though, Victor Osimhen's in Turkey as well, isn't he? He's supposed to be one of the best strikers in the world, apparently. So you just don't know. Yeah, David still thinks Josie has one more goal in the Premier League, and I believe he'd do well for us. We have that against them attitude, which fits in with him. I tell you what, David, he'd have to actually win a fucking game at St James's Park for the first time ever, wouldn't he, if he took the Newcastle job? Maybe that's the only way he's actually going to do that, to be brutally honest with you. But it will be interesting to see. Again, this all depends on what the club are going to do, Eddie Howe. Just for the record, I don't want Howe out yet. I'm not there yet. But he needs to convince me that he's the man going forward, because I'm really starting to lose confidence. So we'll move on from Eddie Howe, and it's time for Out of Toon Mark. It's our favourite part of the night, isn't it? It's the non-Newcastle United section. But we are going to start with a couple of Newcastle stories just to buck the trend. The first one, I think everyone saw this, absolute brilliant touch by Anthony Gordon. He put some money behind the bar in the Strawberry, so all the Newcastle fans' first pint was bought for them by Anthony Gordon. They held up this little sign, and Anthony Gordon bought me my first pint. There was a couple of fans there that, God bless them, they said they went viral with it as well. And true to form, they got some shit on X for it, which is standard. So welcome to the club for getting shit, Toon Dog and Olivia, because that's what happens on X when you say something, put yourself out there, you just get trolls giving you shit. But lovely touch from Anthony Gordon, that may, isn't it?
Yeah, it's those little things that endear you to fans at the end of the day. Something simple like that. It doesn't have to be a massive show of
come on,
anything.
Ian. Come on, Ian, you cynical bastard.
But look, it's those little touches, isn't it? Look, I mean, Paul Heaton of the ones of House Martins and beautiful South fame always puts money in a pub for people that are going to see his shows and things like that. It's just little touches. Is that
because it's happy hour again, is it? Is that why? Is it? Hey, I'm here all night.
So yeah, it's little touches, and it's a nice little thing to do. It doesn't have to be a huge gesture to gesture. It doesn't have to be one of those either.
Don't be funny. Exactly.
I feel like I've had one of those tonight.
I was going to say, Mark's flagging. And to be fair, just to end on the Newcastle stuff, we should have known it wasn't going to be our day when war flags turned into woe flags, as Mark said. When this clusterfuck happened in the crowd, that should have been a telltale sign that it was all going to go tits up. And a great bow tie, as the Mac.
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
really pointed out to us on X. But to be fair, I'm not sure. I think last time they tried a flag display, I think somebody ran off with the fucking money. So if I was them, I'd be very, very quiet because they had a mare last time. They had their flags. I'll tell you who else had a mare as well, Mark, was the poor Bristol City fan on X. That went tits up, didn't it? Yeah, I think he was in a real difficult situation, wasn't he? And then he decided to post. I think it was after a lift, wasn't he? And
he put his phone number on.
And he decided to put his phone number on X, and then Julie got text messages of people being complete shithouses and everything. So a bit of a schoolboy error there, Mark, because they don't put your phone number on social media.
Please note that I blurred that out, and I cut. Funnily enough, of all the other messages had the people that had texted him number on. So I hope they got some crap as well.
Oh my days.
But yeah, of all things, don't put your phone number on social media, people. It's just not a very, very bright move.
Really not a good idea. But sometimes social media gives you absolute gems. And this was a belter. If people didn't see this already, so our favourite team, Southampton, were 2-0 up, and they fucked it up, as the Leicester fans were happily cheering about it. Some pure Jamie Vardy shithousery as well, but they were getting mugged up everybody. Even fucking Roy Cropper from Coronation Street was giving them shit in the crowd, and he was brilliant. He was posing for photos with everybody. I can't quite remember the name of the actor. I think it's David something, isn't it? But absolute quality from him as well, to be honest with you. Blackburn Rovers did tweet something as well, which was awesome. which I don't think we don't have the picture for, but they tweeted a picture of Roy Cropper in his Blackburn top in Coronation Street and just said, "How could you, Roy?" Which I thought was fucking excellent social media skills by Blackburn. Right?
Very good. And yeah, once again, Southampton lose. So
yes.
After the whole thing from Ben Barrett and Diaz.
Chef's kiss. They are going down quicker than Tulisa in the dressing room, mate. And, and they will suck better as well. So yeah, I don't know where I was going. Where I was going with that. I wouldn't know either, honestly, Tulisa. Honestly. Right, so moving on very quickly. I better move on before I get in trouble. So this is the breaking news. I think that Vinicius Jr. is going to be crowned the Ballon d'Or winner. It does seem weird to say Ballon d'Or without the words Messi or Ronaldo shortly after as well, who are coming to the end of their time in football. That's going to be a sad, sad day when those two retire. But is that a worthy winner, Mark? Vinicius Jr.? I mean, do you not think that Joe Linton was in for a shout with the competition?
I mean, it was the season before. You can make an argument for it, but no, I think Vinny's probably justified that.
Yeah, I would say so, mate. I would say so. But yeah, I mean, certainly his teammate Mbappe isn't going to nick any headlines off him this season because he's still stumbling and struggling a little bit as well, isn't he? But speaking of the other team in La Liga who are struggling a little bit or in some trouble, Barcelona could be in some serious shit as they had a major FFP win for UEFA over Barcelona in a court of arbitration for sports. So the profits from the sale of future TV revenue is not FFP compliant. And the court rules that basically the Barca can't book that as FFP profits because it's non-tangible assets. Now, people don't know about it. Barcelona kind of sold a media company internally, a bit like Chelsea did with the hotels, to beat FFP. And if they hadn't have done that, Mark, they'd have been in the shit with FFP. And I smell a fire sale at Barcelona coming very, very soon.
And yet they'll still be linked with moves for Bruno and all sorts. I mean, the last one they were being linked with a move for Haaland. So that ain't happening anytime soon. However, one of the other ones we've got to come for Barcelona, that this might be how they're going to get around their FFP.
Very, very possibly, yeah. They can get around their FFP if an idiot fan like this tit buys €8,000 worth of shirts that had Coldplay on the front of them. I mean, listen, I like Coldplay as much as the next person, but that is fucking madness. Why on earth would you buy €8,000 worth of shirts?
My only thinking is that he's got them on resale because they're limited edition, perhaps to sell them on for a profit. But that's an awful lot of shirts.
Yeah, very, very possible. But yeah, honestly, I don't know what the hell he was playing at with that one, mate, because that was absolute mental. I really don't understand why on earth you would do that. That's a great shout, Jamal, as well. If we had Rafinha on the right wing, I'd definitely go for him, mate, because I think he's an absolute brilliant player. Or we could just go for Jamal, as J7 says. Aim high, mate. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, and maybe George is saying he doesn't like to do the washing, the guy, so maybe that's why he spent
one for every day.
Yeah. Absolutely. I tell you, sticking with La Liga as well, we did see a great story. Not so much a great story for the player, but a brilliant story for sections like this. So this is the former Real Madrid player, is it Vinicius Tobias, and he got a tattoo of his child's name after finding out that his girlfriend was pregnant. What a lovely thing to do, something that a lot of people do. They have the child's names on. I think you have as well, Mark, don't you? But this poor bastard, because this poor bastard only found out that his girlfriend was cheating on him and that he's not even the father of the kid after a DNA test. Now, if that name isn't turned into some kind of picture of a rose or a boat or some shit by now, I'd be absolutely astounded. But what a nightmare that is, mate.
Absolutely brutal. I mean, that's got a Jerry Springer. What was the fellow that did the show over here sort of side to it? Jeremy Kyle.
Yes.
That's an episode of that, isn't it? I got a tattoo of my child's name, but she turned out to be a
brilliant George. George is in there. Get it altered to milkman or plumber. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, you'll have dirty windows for weeks and wonder what the fuck is going on. Absolutely. But crazy stuff over in La Liga. I tell you, we'll stick to abroad, Mark. There is somebody having a good time abroad once again. Andy Carroll was back on the score sheet for Bordeaux, and he's got 5 goals in 3 games now. Anyone else say January bid? He could sort us out, could he not?
The resurgence of Bordeaux, I love to see it. But yeah, I mean, no, he's dropped down an awful long way, hasn't he, in terms of levels? But he looks like he's enjoying his football, and fair play to him. Just living the life in southern France and scoring goals again. Can't argue with that.
Absolutely fantastic. He's gone from necking Jägerbomb and fighting in the big market to nicking Chateau and crushing grapes and scoring goals in Bordeaux. Funny where the world takes you, Big Andy. Good on you, son. Good on you. It's a real feel-good story for football, isn't it? Because he's not earning loads of money. He's already come out and said that. And he's just playing for the love of the game. And I think it's just brilliant, isn't it? And this this beautiful area of France is just this big giant Geordie bastard scoring goals that they absolutely love. I just think it's pretty good. It's pretty amazing. It's almost like a sitcom, isn't it? To be fair, but I tell you, another striker who didn't have a very good time at the weekend though was everyone's favorite Brazilian shithouse, Richarlison. This was fucking hilarious. If you didn't see this, so obviously Spurs played West Ham, and then West Ham just completely fell away, as we said earlier. And they parted like Sharon Stone's legs, and Spurs just scored goal after goal after goal. And then there was a little bit of a Barney with the winger Kudos and a couple of Spurs players. And Richarlison really, really fancied it. He wanted to get ready to rumble, as PJ and Duncan would say. And he ran about 10 yards, only for Kudos to lean back and hit him with his head and knock him on his arse completely flat out, which was fucking hilarious, given how much of a shithouse Richarlison is, isn't it?
Just had, I mean, he'd shoved Vicky van der Ven in the face, turned around, he'd had a pop at, is it Pape Sarr, he'd shoved in the face. Richarlison steaming in as he steps backwards, crack, right in the face. Great, love it. Of all the players for that to happen to, coming in, thinking he's the big guy, coming to get involved, and ends up lying on the floor holding his face. Brilliant, love it. And that's what this section's all about.
Exactly. Dean says he lost the plot, slapping everybody like that meme with a guy with a big hand just walking up and smacking the shit out of people. He really did lose it, didn't he? Absolutely lost it, which was I quite enjoy watching that, especially when it's not one of my players involved. Good night to you, Ian. If you're jumping off for me, sorry, Graham, beg your pardon, I'm losing the plot myself. Thank you very much for joining in. But so yeah, we've got a couple more to go, and then we'll be done. I promise you. So this was breaking news about Gary O'Neill. I posted about this earlier. Me and you've had a differential of opinion on this disallowed Man City goal or not disallowed Man City goal. But I think Bernardo Silva's have struck the keeper. You don't think it. But we both agree on this. We haven't got time to go into a rant about it. We'll be here all night. But Gary O'Neill has been summoned by the FA. They're very disappointed in his post-match comments about how he felt that there's a subconscious bias towards the big clubs. And they've asked him for his observations and then obviously to report back to them. So again, the goal, whether you think it should be given or not, let's park that for a second, Mark. What Gary O'Neill is saying is absolutely on the fucking money. We've been saying this. People have been saying this for years. These referees bottle big decisions against big clubs at key moments. And Gary O'Neill found a very articulate way to say that without saying that. And the bloke's going to get nailed against the wall, isn't he, by the FA?
He will. He'll get fined. It'll be ridiculous. I don't blame him for what he said. I think he said it in a very good way. I don't agree. I think it was legitimately a goal, because even as part of the goalkeeper union, I'm sorry, the goalkeeper's got all the time. He's got an absolute clear sight of the ball there as John Stones heads it. So I'm sorry, there's no excuse. But yeah, Gary O'Neill, fine. He's going to get fined, and the FA will throw it at him, and as they always do. They don't like being challenged. They don't like being called out. The PGMOL won't like it, and they'll throw a hefty fine at him. Shite.
Man, rubbish. Well, we might need to give you a yellow card, Marcus, if it's all nude all night. We don't want you to be hanging out with your wang out watching what's going on, mate. Stick some briefs on, body lad.
Not a kind of show, man.
It's not a kind of show. We're going to get loads of bots in the comments here. Dean saying that he should apologise to O'Neill. It's happened forever. And what he said was true. I think he was brilliant, to be honest with you. I think I like O'Neill. I think he doesn't get a lot of respect, I think, for what he's done in his short time as a manager. But I love the way he talks, Mark. I think he's really, really eloquent. He's not scared to take anybody on, to be fair to him as well. But we are going to end what's going on one last point. It's nothing to do with football whatsoever, but it really pissed me off earlier, if anybody has seen this. So this came out from a New Zealand airport. It's at Dunedin Airport, if we've got any New Zealand viewers in the chat. And these motherfuckers have introduced a maximum hug time limit of 3 minutes to prevent you hugging your loved ones, whether you're saying goodbye to your kids going on a world tour or you're saying hello to your long-lost fucking second brother on your mother's side who lived on the other side of the world for the rest of your life and you never knew he was there. These wankers are sitting there timing you for 3 minutes. And the CEO came on the TV, this corporate soulless ghoul of a wank, trying to justify why he came up with this rule. And I just thought, if you were hugged a bit more as a kid, maybe you wouldn't have come up with this rule, you horrible Cyril Sneer-esque prick that you are. And I thought it was horrendous. So I wanted to get that in at the end of Out of Toon, mate.
And that's my response to it. The weirdest Out of Toon ever. I mean, just what? That's all I'll say. I just...
Who comes up with that? He's like a Disney villain. Who comes up with that? It's fucking awful. That's a terrible thing to do.
What is that improving anyway? Yeah.
Exactly, Ian.
Exactly.
What the fuck? Best way to end that. We should have called the show "What the Fuck." Is what we should have called it. I think Marcus is on the whiskies. I think tonight. Somebody needs a hug. Yes, I'll have a hug. I'll have a virtual hug, William. Thank you very much. And longer than 3 minutes, mate. Come in for the full 5. Fuck New Zealand. Not New Zealand in general. I love New Zealand. Not that airport. Fuck that airport. I'll swim there instead. But that's us done for tonight, guys.
Just throw the whole country under the bus. Why don't you?
Obviously not. Listen, we've met people from New Zealand. They're great people. And we've had fans in the chat as well. We love New Zealand. But that airport are wankers. So, yeah, thank you very much, Brian. About a show. Thank you so much, Brian. We really appreciate that. And thank you all for tuning in. It always helps the episode flow when the comments are coming in. Apologies if I look like Max Headroom tonight. I don't know what's going on with me Wi-Fi. It's my camera or something. I'm a little bit gay. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Help get us to 9K. We'll be back with some more Newcastle Night content in the coming few days. Check out the Joe Willock regression video. That's going to be out in the next couple of days. I'm sure you'll be interested in that, given some of your comments tonight about Joe Willock. And keep it ever more, guys. Have a bell afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.
See you, guys.